All right, guys, welcome. This is Breakfast with the Brand. Of course, the number one podcast in the world for entrepreneurs like you who are looking to go to the next level with your personal brand. I am your host, Junior Frederick, and I have with me the man himself, Mr. Bobby Stealth. And we're about to get into some interesting conversation today. Now, guys, if you're tuned in live, go ahead and put some flames in the comments and also let us know where you're listening in from. Bobby, what's up?
Man, I'm having a phenomenal morning, Junior. I'm feeling pretty still. I don't know if you've ever seen still water, where it kind of just rests. But underneath the water, there's like so much activity. There's fish, there's like algae, there's rocks, there's so much. But on the surface, it's still. So I'll share a few things that I actually wrote. While I was listening to the intro, I was just sitting, still. And I wrote, persistence ensures the destination. Progress precedes achievement. Problems produce solutions. And forgiveness preserves hope. And I'm interested to see where our conversation goes this morning because there's so much going on, in everybody's life, in everybody's business, in the world, and what we do as entrepreneurs and leaders is we solve problems as they arise, for a lot of people. And that's what, gives many of us the fuel and the joy to do what we do, who we do it for. So I'm interested. I'm excited. I'm still. How about you, Junior?
That's a good question. This morning, I would say that I'm not necessarily still, but I'm normally very calm. I'm a very calm individual normally, right? But today, in fact, every day I try to embrace the quality of curiosity. So I'm a very curious person. In other words, I want to know everything. So I'm interested to hear what you have to say. It's so interesting, Bobby. So in sales, it said that number one, before you could sell anybody anything, you have to gain their attention and then you have to gain their interest. But the quickest way to become an interesting person is to you yourself become interested. Those who become interested in other people become interesting to those people. So I'm very interested. I'm very interested in what you have to say. I'm very interested in what the audience has to say. Shout out to everybody that's viewing. By the way, please put those comments in the chat. Please put those questions there as well. So I'm just in a curious mood, a curious space, and I'm just here to see where it goes as well.
Mhm. Michelle gave you a big tongue twister today, so I wonder if you're going to give that one a shot.
I'm not touching that. Okay, what she said. Oh man, listen, Dr. Michelle, you're killing me here. Thrillville, Thankful Tuesday. All right, there you go. I got it.
Yeah,
So Thrillville, Thankful Tuesday. I don't know where she comes up with this stuff. Let me tell you.
yeah, man. Neither do I. And with where we're going today, because we were talking on the back end, guys. Me and Junior were talking about morals, values, principles, and just why we do what we do as entrepreneurs. Because this is your call. This is your breakfast with the brand. So today, as we dive deeper, I just want you guys to think about what drives you. Because we're going to touch on that a little bit. A few other things that we're going to touch on is why haven't you quit? Because anybody in business knows you got like a million reasons to quit. There's a million reasons why you could probably wake up and say this is just tough. But many of us find one reason to keep going. Usually that one reason could be a person. It could be uh, experience that you had that you said I'll never experience again. It could be anything, any number of things, but it's like that one thing that keeps you going. So I definitely want you guys to think about that because, again, one of the first things I wrote down was persistence ensures the destination. And no one arrives where they're trying to go usually in one day. They say Rome wasn't built in a day. A lot of people say that anything worth doing takes a long time. a lot more time than you expect it to. So that's where I'm going to probably be driving us a little bit, Junior, and then connecting all of that to marketing and branding. How you have to have a brand that can stand the test of time. How you need a marketing strategy that is dynamic and diverse enough to engage with your ideal client at various stages in their lives, at various stages in their business, because they're not always going to be up and at them, ready to buy their solution. Sometimes they're going to be down in the dumps, wondering if it's even worth going forward. And then they read your post, or they see your live, or they hear you talk about something that no one else is talking about. So that's where I'm sitting, so to speak, Junior. So before we go to the break, did you have anything that you're kind of thinking about, anything that you may take us to this morning?
Yeah. So one phrase came to mind while you were speaking, and it's a very simple phrase. It's never, ever, ever give up. Never, ever, ever give up. Whatever it is that you're pursuing in business, in life, you just never give up, regardless of what it is. Now, with that being said, I'm going to be coming from that perspective when we come back. Listen, stay tuned. This is Breakfast with the Brand. We'll be right back after this short break.
I said Shaan right east. I'm proud. I said Shaan right east. Leadership is not the brand they made for us.
Listen, he brought fire, heat. He didn't hold back.
20 years down the line, what I could sell, why not serve first? Service over salary. Branding like a leader closes the gap for people who want branding. Speaking like a leader closes the gap for people who are nervous about speaking. If Steve Jobs would have speculated, we wouldn't have Apple.
He changed lives. He helped people open up their business and start their business.
We are the brand. Some people say, Shaan, should I quit my job? Mentally, yes.
As a speaker too, to be able to learn from him and watch him and game respects game. And I want to have that much game someday.
The right client, pay $500,000 for what you do. You have to be bold in your beliefs.
He has been an amazing asset to this event and a pleasure to work with. Very captivating, collaborative, worked very well with the audience.
I want to help you. Put a 0 behind your number, right?
The session was great. How he is online, virtually, he is even more phenomenal in person.
Be the face of change that you want to see. Stop asking questions and start giving demands.
The entire team has just been absolutely incredible. They are a joy to work with. They go above and beyond.
Give yourself a round of applause. Yes, yes, yes. So when you're young, mommy tells you to play nice. Play nice, Timmy. Let all of the other kids play too. But in business, it's not about playing nice. In business, it's about winning. It's about adding multiple zeros to your revenue. Now, of course, your staff wins. And when you win, other people win. However, when it comes to competition, you absolutely must dominate. You can't play for participation, and you can't play just to get along or just to get by, because business is serious. Business will help you to change the world, or the world will change you. Your people will either win or your people will lose based on your level of leadership, what you're willing to do, what you're willing to sacrifice, and how much you know about dominating. There's slow growth, and then there's scale. There's incremental growth, and then there's exponential growth. What I want to talk to you about is adding a 0 to you and experiencing exponential scale. Incremental growth says 1 plus 1 is 2. Exponential growth says 1 plus 0 is 10. Incremental growth says 2 plus 2 is 4. Exponential growth says 5 plus 0 is 50. Guys, listen, when you add a 0 to you, you can add a 0 to the marketplace. You can add a 0 to the value that you bring. So you can add a 0 to your family, add a 0 to your legacy. This is what we're talking about. We're not talking about incremental, we're talking about exponential. I always say that business is a spiritual game. Just imagine when you combine your skills, your values, your abilities, your talents to something bigger than you, something greater than you, something like the power of exponential. That is adding a zero. Add a zero to your competence. Add a zero to your confidence. This is about adding a zero in your life, your value, your industry, and your mission. Let's grow.
Man. So we're back, guys, and I'm super excited to dive into some questions here that me and Junior are going to discuss. And one of my first questions for Junior is just going to be around embracing curiosity and how you think about weakness. So when you say you live a life of embracing curiosity and going through the process, when you think about strength and weakness, when you think about a strong brand and a weak brand, when you think about just being curious enough to find out what the people are thinking about, how do you confront weakness? Like, how do you get stronger in your own life? Because we're all weak in some areas. It could be a technical expertise, such as marketing, or a brand. We may have a weak brand, a weak marketing base of knowledge. So how do you get stronger?
So Bobby, is your question like how do you get stronger as a brand, or is it in like all areas of life? Exactly.
It's more of all areas for you. So we can definitely connect it to the brand. But my goal is to just help people start thinking in a way that says how you do one thing is how you do everything. Because a lot of times the answers that we're looking for are right in front of us. They say the results you want are in the work you refuse to do. Right. So I'm just looking for some perspective on your part of how you get stronger. What do you think about?
Well, a very long time ago, well, not too long, but let's just say about 10 years ago, I went through this pretty let's just say traumatizing experience. Very, very tough experience. And it left me in a space where, and I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but it's like it's just you and God, basically.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, it's just like there's a big guy up there. Now's the time to do your thing, right? Now's the time to do your thing. So, but one thing I did learn going through that, Bobby, is the main lesson for me was that you don't find freedom from pain. You don't find freedom running from pain. You find freedom by going through pain. You find freedom through pain. And I could also say that you find strength through pain. So the whole reason or the whole way you get stronger is you have to apply pressure. So for me, I think the way that I always get stronger or the way that I grow is I apply pressure to myself, pressure to improve, pressure to learn, pressure to grow, pressure to go to the gym. So today I worked out this morning. I really did not want to work out this morning. Tell you that I really did not want to, but I still did. So I believe growth comes through a painful process that you go through that helps you to get stronger.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's no strength. You can't really get strength by going through pain. I want you to imagine, like, let's just pretend if you walk into, let's just say you walk into like a bar or something, okay, and then there's a couple people lined up all the way going down to the back, and as you're walking through, you're looking at them. Okay, so you see this person, everybody looks sort of regular, and way to the back, there's this one guy with an eye patch. He has an eye patch. He has this big beard, and he's just sort of sitting there very calmly. Most people's reaction would be like, I wonder what this guy has been through. Why is he so calm when everybody else is so hysterical?
Mm-hmm.
How can you exude strength when everybody's exuding weakness? Well, the reason you could do that is because you've been through something. But if you never go through anything, how do you get stronger? Listen, I believe that in life, and this is something that my father taught me. I'll sum it up in like this. You know, a word from the wise is sufficient. So there are ways to get stronger without going through pain yourself. You don't have to make every single mistake in the book. Some mistakes you never recover from. Okay? So you can grow through your own pain or you go through the pain of others. Either way, you go through pain for growth. And that's what I believe it is.
You know, and guys, if this is making sense, if this is a good direction this morning, put a one in the chat, put some flames in the chat so that I know if we're moving in the right direction for the energy of the call. But I just woke up this morning feeling a sense that there were a lot of phenomenal people putting up a lot of weight. And when you're putting up weight, heavy weight, be it personal, professional, spiritual, emotional, when you're putting up weight, trust me, like you feel by yourself. You feel like no one else knows what you're pressing. No one else knows how heavy this thing is. And everybody, for whatever reason, looks like they want you to fail. It's like, but that's maybe not be the truth, but that's how it feels. You know, and that's why I wanted to take this direction a bit this morning, because you gotta be able to persist. You gotta be able to dive deeper and go to that level. So one of the things that I wrote down a few things about pain, actually, because Ray Dalio talks about this in his book Principles. He's like, anytime I experience pain, I know I'm supposed to be learning something. He's like, pain is a teacher. And one of the things that I wrote down personally, and this is my philosophy, is that pain is a teacher and lessons determine legacy. So if you're taking notes, I'd write that one down. Lessons determine legacy. So the lessons that you learn and implement and execute on determine the legacy, because they determine your legacy because they have a direct impact on the way you live, the lessons you learn. And oftentimes we try to avoid learning hard lessons. We try to find every way. For example, we were having a discussion last night about marketing, and we were talking about identifying the ideal client and doing real market research and really diving deep into what this actually looks like. And very few people go as deep as we went last night. One, they don't know to go that deep. They never had the lesson. And because they never had the lesson, then their results are a direct reflection of what they know. And what was painful last night for many people that might not consider themselves tech savvy is they were going through this. What is this app? What is this? Where can I find that? It was painful. Some people was like, hey, can I share my screen? Can you walk me through this? Because I don't get it. But guess what? That painful experience, that monotony, that tedium, that I'm not good enough yet. But if I stick with it and persist, then I'll learn the lesson necessary to transform the trajectory of my legacy. That's what I think pain is really about. And there's something we say in the Marine Corps before I ask Junior the next question. So in the Marine Corps, we say pain is weakness leaving the body. And what I love about that is it's all about perspective. It's like, how can I make the most of this pain? Because the thing in life is that everything at some point hurts. You know, everything hurts at some point. Getting married hurts at some point. Like, the person you love will be the person you hate at some point in your life, but you'll find love again, you know, and that's really a part of the process. So my next question for you, Junior, is more of a marketing and branding perspective. What are some of the strategies that you use when you are going through but still have to execute? Because many of us know that marketing, whoever wins the marketing wins the sale. So there's times in entrepreneurs' lives where we don't feel like going live. We don't feel like marketing. We don't feel like telling a story that is appealing when we feel like we're actually dying. Like could you imagine putting up a post that says, you can do it, you can make it, everything's going to be okay, when you're behind on your mortgage? You don't know where your next meal is going to come from. You've got all these different things. Like, life is lifing, and you still have to run a business. So how do you manage that, like, business wise, as an entrepreneur, actually marketing and branding yourself despite the wows of life?
Oh, Bobby, check this out. Just because you lose doesn't mean you're a loser.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you win doesn't mean you're a winner. Okay? So there's a difference between being a loser. Like right now, if you're losing right now, it doesn't mean you're a loser. Sometimes winners lose. Sometimes winners lose. And I mean, if you're going through it right now, it's okay. Who hasn't? Who hasn't? One of the things I do is I like to think of it as, who are you competing against? Like you have to have some level of competitiveness about you. If you're in business, then you're competing, and you're competing to dominate, like Shaan would say. But who are you competing against? You're competing against people in your niche that have the ability to separate logic and emotion. You're competing against people that could do it in the rain, that can also do it in the sun. So when it's sunning, when it's sunshine, also when it's raining, they can perform. If you're the kind of person that could only perform when the sun is shining and everything is good and everything is nice, and you cannot perform when it's raining, then you will be beat by somebody who can. And I guarantee you they exist. So for me, having that spirit of competitiveness and also keeping a bigger vision in mind is what works for me. But also not self-identifying with that period in my life. So if you're losing right now, if you're behind on your mortgage, if you're this and if you're that, that's what you're going through. So you are not what you go through. You are not what you go through. Like we go through stuff happens. And I think one of the biggest causes, and some of the counselors and psychologists can correct me, but some of the biggest trouble is we sometimes identify with what we're going through. So you go through, let's say, a breakup, and then you think you're a bad person. You go through maybe a business failure, and all of a sudden you think you're a bad entrepreneur. You're not necessarily what you go through. So being able to separate that is a big thing. And I think that's actually key, like recognizing that winners do lose, and sometimes losers win. Sometimes losers win. And, just knowing which side of the fence you're on. Hopefully you're a winner, okay? And a winner, it means to have a winning mindset and having a mindset of never giving up, knowing that you're the best at what you do, and always striving to be number one in anything you do. And to me, that's a winner.
Wow. And that's like right at the half-hour marker. So I've got some great questions for you when we come back from the break. One more around identity, so we're going to dive into identity a little bit when we get back, because your brand is an extension of your identity as an individual. It's your morals, values, and principles extended into the marketplace in the form of an organization. So that's really powerful. And what Junior just said was integral to having a strong brand, because if you can't separate life, like what's happening in your life, from who you are as a brand, then something that happens to a lot of entrepreneurs is that your brand in the marketplace will start to reflect your life. And if your life isn't looking good at the moment, or at least you don't feel good about your life at the moment, then your brand starts to lose value, or it starts to be positioned in the marketplace ineffectively, because now it looks like what you're going through. So I think having a good winning mindset, like Junior said, and understanding identity is crucial to brand longevity and being a personal brand that can stand the test of time and show up in the rain. So we'll dive into that when we get back from the break.
I tell people all the time, I say coaching is a future-focused, goal and action-oriented process. Emphasis on action and emphasis on process. We're going to show you how to not just coach like a leader, but to create your organization with a coaching culture, and then create your community of high-level clients who need and respect your ability to coach them on a high level. So again, this is not consultation. Consultation is being the expert. You do not have to be the expert in a vertical to be a coach in that vertical. What you do have to do is ask open-ended questions. What you do have to do is have active listening. Listen, when you get done with this course, you're going to be a master coach, a master executive coach, You can use this in whatever vertical you want to. If you want to do life coaching, this will help you. If you want to coach clients, coach teachers, coach students, this will help you. If you want to be an evidence-based executive coach and only work with professionals, that's what this program is going to allow you to do. But it's also going to help you to add a 0 to the back of your number, because you will know what you're doing. This is not hype. This is not motivation. This is evidence-based. This is factual-based, data-based, driven by science, and exalted by performance. Confidence is key. Most of the people I work with, they have the education, the experience, and the expertise. We call those the 3 E's. But they're looking for the 3 I's, the income, the impact, and the independence. And I always tell them that the bridge between the 3 E's and the 3 I's is marrying your confidence to your competence. Most of the people I work with, again, have all of the competence in the world. What I help them do is get the confidence.
Man. So we're back, guys. We're back. And what I want to put out there for you all is this, as we dive into the identity piece. You must become what you want, because people focus on what they are. I'll say that again. Like, you must become what you want because people focus on what they are. I remember watching a marriage couple, like a married couple, talk about marriage. And one of the men said, you're looking for this wife, right? You're looking for this particular woman that's going to love and support you and be ideal for raising a family with. But you're not the man that is ideal for that woman. And he was saying it because the individual was a bit childish. The individual was a bit inconsiderate and just didn't have the qualities of a husband that a woman of that caliber would appreciate. So what ended up happening, what he ended up saying was that you must become what you want because people focus on what they are. And he was saying, because you're a bit inconsiderate, you're going to focus on yourself. And because you're a bit immature, you may focus on immature things. And because this is who you are and people focus on what they are, then every time you go out to meet this wife that you're looking for, you're going to end up finding someone that's just like you because you focus on what you are. And that's really important when it comes to business, because a lot of times pain and the process, right? Trust the process. The process is really a matter of exposing gaps. Imagine that. Imagine trying to become something that you've never been without knowing who you actively are. So most times, the reason we need coaches and the reason we need people to help us is because we can't see the wrapper when we're in the bottle. We sometimes don't even know how jacked up we are. And when we don't know who we are or what we are, because we are perceiving ourselves in the best light, obviously, right? No one wants to look at themselves as a bad person, or we're not telling ourselves that. You know, we're telling ourselves all the good things that we do. And then we are sometimes undermining the small things that we don't do. And in the reality of business, in my experience, it's those gaps. It's the things that we write off as small that the world sees as huge. The man that provides, doesn't step out, shows up every night, does all of these things, in his mind, those are huge. But the little thing, the thing about him being present, to him, he's like, man, I do all of these other things, but I'm not present. Like, that's small. Like, do you know how many deadbeats are out there? You know how many kids don't have fathers? You should be thankful that I'm even doing all of these things. But the reality is, it's the one small thing that the woman wants, that the kids, so to speak, need. And in business, I found that's the same. That's very true. It's like the one thing you don't do. You have a phenomenal product. You've got a great this. You've got a great that. You've got a great this. You've got all these things going for you, but you refuse to market. Just won't do it. It's the one thing that's not getting done, that you're doing everything else right. But that one thing, that one gap, that one thing that's not being exposed, thoroughly enough because there's not enough pressure to expose it is normally what keeps a lot of entrepreneurs stagnant. So in your experience, Junior, what were some of the small things that ended up really being big things? Like in your mind when you were like immature in your development, like because we've all been at different stages of maturity. So the question that I want to focus on for the audience is, in your experience, when was a time in your life as an entrepreneur where you thought you were crushing it? You thought you were killing it. You thought you were working hard. But then you got around some people that were really killing it, really working hard, and it exposed a gap for you. Like, what was that experience like, and how did you develop as an individual?
That's a good question. I think when you start working as an entrepreneur and you're sort of working in a bubble, it's very easy to feel like you're doing something big. But when you get around people that are really doing big stuff, you start to realize, you know, how much you sort of suck, for lack of a better word. I'll give you a quick story. So, and this is about sales. So once I was having some trouble with energy. Now, energy is very important in sales. If you're on the phone and you're making 100 calls per day, maybe 150, this is like literally running a marathon every single day. That's what it feels like.
Right.
The thing is, if you're on the phone, if you're making 150 calls per day or 100 calls per day, you're not closing anybody. On day number one, you're energetic. By day number five, you're like, oh boy, here we go. Here we go. Now, Bobby, check this out. I had the opportunity to speak with somebody who was a sales leader in another organization. Okay. And then I told him what I was going through. I said, man, for some reason, I just, one gap I feel like I have is just like energy. I told him I work out every day, I'm eating right, I feel like I'm drinking enough water, stuff like that. So then he said to me, how many hours do you sleep? I said, sleep? At the time I was sleeping, I think like 4 hours a day, something like that, 4 or 5 hours a day. And I'm hitting it 16 hours, a day, just going, just working from morning, maybe from like, because I wake up early. If I wake up early, I'll start working at literally like 4:30 in the morning. I'm already working at 4:30 in the morning. I've already done half of the work I need to do for the day. Okay. So at 4:30 in the morning, I'm already working, and I wrap up maybe around 8 p.m. thereabout. I wrap up. So I'm doing like 16-hour days. And he said, how many hours are you sleeping? I said, sleep? What are you what are you talking about? Sleep. We need to get on the call or get on the phone and make more calls, right? I thought he was gonna tell me you need to make more calls, or you need to follow up a little bit more, something like that. He said, no, he said, your problem is you're not sleeping enough. And then he said something, he said, if you have no energy, you're not gonna close. You need to sleep more and do less. I said, what? I said, what? He said, yeah. He said, you need to sleep more and do less. So, well, just as I advise anybody, when you take advice or when you get advice from somebody who's, levels above you, I empty my cup. I say, no problem. I started sleeping more. I started working just a little bit less, and my results improved. I had more energy, just like he said. I was able to close, and things went uphill from there. So I say this story to say that you need to get out of your bubble and get around people that are experienced. So people like Shaan, people like myself, people like Bobby that have been where you want to go, because it is always, Bobby, literally always the small thing, like you were saying, almost always the one thing that you would probably never think of. Here I am talking to this guy who's closed millions of dollars, and I thought he was going to tell me, you're not making enough calls, you're not doing this, you're not doing that. He said, no, like, you know what you're doing, you're just not sleeping enough. And trust me, I would have never thought that my problem was I wasn't sleeping enough. I would have never thought that in a million years. That's why wisdom is important. It's important to get around a coach. If you're in business and you don't have a coach, you're literally wasting your time. Literally wasting your time. Because you could save literally years. You're trying to build your brand on your own. You could save years. Bobby, you were on the call last night. I think Dr. Michelle and I think Bradley and Dr. Michelle was there. So put it in the chat. Dr. Michelle, we were in the Branded Like a Leader Academy. What I showed the class last night, just put it in the chat. How much time do you feel like we saved? Like I save people a lot of time, but just put a number to that amount of time. How many weeks, months, or even years do you feel like you might have saved just going through that class, as opposed to you trying to figure that stuff out on your own and get it down to that level of specificity and detail and all of that? Just put it in the comments what you think. Because trust me, Bobby, people, if you don't have a coach, you're literally wasting your time. So Michelle puts 5 years, 5 years in 1 hour. So in 1 hour's work, saved her 5 years. Yeah. Bradley put Bradley put 7 years. 1 hour's work, 7 years. Trust me, like, yeah, she says, I would have never figured it out alone. Yeah, you would have never figured it out because you have to get around people that are experienced. So my answer to you, Bobby, is like people need to get out of their own bubble. You need a coach. You need somebody that could see you for who and for what you are and for where you are, and that could guide you and help you move the needle forward. And by the way, just so you know, everybody looking, we do have an event literally this Friday. So if you don't have a coach as yet, and you know you need a coach, and you're still considering coaches, we have an event this Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's going to be a webinar, okay? Full disclosure, we will be selling admittance into the academy. However, if you're interested in building your brand, this is where you need to be. The information on there will be very, very useful, and then there will be an opportunity to take your brand to the next level, just so you know. Only if you're interested in that should you attend. So people like Jeremiah, for example, if you're interested in building your brand, you should come to that event. Okay, so where is the link for that event? Go to www.shaanrice.com, just register for our contact us form, and then you will automatically get on the email list, and then you'll receive the emails. You can also contact myself or just contact Bobby via any social media platform, and we will give you access to that. But only come. This is for people that are only serious about building their brand, people that are action takers, because action takers are money makers. And I only want to work with action takers. I'm only interested in that. So if you're interested in building your brand, if you're interested in getting a coach and saving 5 years, 7 years, and in some cases, 10 years off of your business development and growth, this Friday, 7 p.m. East, message myself or Bobby, and we will give you access.
Yeah. You know, Junior, I've got this story in my mind right now, and I think it's going to be a phenomenal way for us to close out the call when we come back from this last break. But it's a story some people know. It's a old story. Like, I think it's from Greek origin or something like that, but it's a common story. And when I break this down, I think it's going to create a really big aha moment for a lot of what we've been talking about today. So I'm excited to dive into that when we come back. And great breakdown, Junior, by the way. Great breakdown.
The difference between sales and closing, I get this all of the time, guys. Closing is elegant. Closing is luxurious. Closing is the most profitable. Sales, high pressure tactics. No one associates car sales, right? The sleazy sales tactics with closing, because closing is elegant. Closing is excellent. You have to be a professional in order to close deals. Listen, when you do this the right way, when you learn what we're going to teach you in here, your clients will be trying to close you, and they won't let you close them for low numbers. So you'll be able to heighten, increase your profitability, increase your visibility, increase your reach, and increase your impact in the marketplace, and be confident and comfortable charging higher prices than you ever thought possible to the right people who can actually pay for them and then say thank you for closing them. When I think of brand you, I think of being your best self, your most authentic. The reason why we were able to crush business, absolutely dominate in business without having the marketing list, without having the email huge list, without having the Facebook ads and the advertising budget, without knowing the algorithm. The reason we were able to do this is because I branded myself. I told my authentic story and I was comfortable in my skin. Why? Because it was that time in the world where everything was shifting. It was 2020, March. So you remember what happened during that time. It was like the world was coming to an end. So you didn't have anything to hold back. So I chose to give everything that I had and be everything that I am. And because I was that, because I branded me, because I was authentic, everything shifted. And people wanted more. And they wanted to know more about me and how they could become more comfortable in their skin. Listen, guys, when you brand you and not what you do, you're gonna add a 0 to the world, but you'll also add a 0 to your revenue. Let's grow. Confidence is key. Most of the people I work with, they have the education, the experience, and the expertise. We call those the 3 E's. But they're looking for the 3 I's, the income, the impact, and the independence. And I always tell them that the bridge between the 3 E's and the 3 I's is marrying your confidence to your competence. Most of the people I work with, again, have all of the competence in the world. What I help them do is get the confidence.
Man, so the story, guys. Put a 1 in the chat if I can. Put a 1 in the chat if this is good, and put a 2 in the chat if I can tell you a story. Short story. 1 in the chat if this has been good, man. Like, we're diving deep into some things that really transform the entrepreneurial experience. It really transforms the experience, because you can have a good experience or you can have a not so great experience. But the story that I like to share with you guys is the ship of Theseus. The ship of Theseus. So if you don't know about this story, there were some, I believe they were Athenians. Now, Theseus had escaped on a ship. And when Theseus was on this ship, they were traveling a long way. So as the ship's components started to wear out, right? They started to get old and beaten up and warped. And this is a wooden ship that this crew has escaped on. They started replacing parts of the ship. They started replacing the bow. They started replacing the sails. They started replacing the stern and all of these components, to the point that the ship had so many components replaced at different times during the voyage that when the ship arrived, the question was a bit of a paradox. Is it the same ship? It's the same crew. It's the same vessel, so to speak, a ship. However, all of the components from the ship have been replaced through wear and tear and development from the voyage. And I share that with you because real growth is a paradox that many will debate you on. Have you ever heard you've changed? Have you ever heard, you're not the person you used to be? Have you ever heard, man, I remember when we used to kick it. Oh, you're Hollywood now, So what they're really saying is that now that you've arrived, now that you've gotten to your destination and they saw what you were like when you left, and now they see what you are today, it's paradoxical. And the reason I bring this up is because I want you to think of those ship's components as values, morals, values, and principles for that matter. But we want to focus on values. The reason I want us to focus on values is because that's what communities are, that's one of their biggest responsibilities, is to help create a culture that standardizes certain value sets and value systems. So those of you all that know about my military experience, When I joined the military, one of the three core values that we all have to aspire to is honor, courage, and commitment. Those are the three values of the United States Marine Corps. And of those three core values, everyone that comes into that community has to live up to those values. And what does boot camp do? Boot camp is a 90-day process in which, or 12 weeks rather, where they're stripping away and replacing. The stern is still got to be a stern, but it's got to be a stern made of different wood. The bow still needs to be a bow, but it needs to be a bow made of different wood. So you as a person, you still have to be a person. You still have mind, body, and spirit, but you have to have different values. You have to have a different understanding, a different level of clarity on what you're doing, who you are, and why you're doing it if you're going to arrive, because decay is where a lot of people lay to waste. They lay to waste because they're on a voyage, they're on a marathon, they're going through the strips of Magellan. If you know anything about voyaging, like seas, very treacherous waterway. And imagine that's your business, that's you, that's your life. Like life is the sea, and it's crashing against your boat. And if you don't replace your value system and your principles that govern your thinking and your tactics, like if you don't replace them and upgrade them, then you don't arrive. So the last thing that I'll end with before the question that I'm turning to Junior is something for you guys to kind of write down. Values determine investments. Okay. So when values change, the flow of energy is maximized. So imagine if you had a value that said, I'll give more value when people pay me. That value is misfounded. Anybody that knows anything about business knows that once you provide the value, then you'll be paid. So once you change the value and the energy flows into the new direction, when you were waiting for someone to pay you before you provided value, you were getting, crickets. But then when you started to change that value system and then you applied the energy to the new value set, then you got the results. So values determine investments, and sunk costs create anchors, and strength burns the boats. So I just gave you guys a lot. I want to break that down and turn it to Junior. So value determines investments. So you need to have the right value so that you invest your time properly and your energy properly. Sunk costs create anchors. So a sunk cost is when you had a misguided value, and that misguided value required you to pour energy into it. But now you've poured all of this energy in and you've poured all of this time in, but because the value was misguided, you don't have any results. So we call that a sunk cost. You paid for something, but you didn't get a result from it. And then we have strength burns the boats. So even after you've identified a misguided value, you've identified the energy that is quote unquote wasted, but not wasted. Now it's a matter of having the strength to burn the boat. So now you can say, all right, can I get rid of this value? Can I let go of this misfounded principle or this ungrounded principle? Can I find a new moral compass that is more ethical than the one that I had? And if you can do that, you can do exactly what the crew did on the ship of Theseus, meaning replace the wood as it decays and is no longer valuable so that you can achieve to your destination, which is what I opened with. And that was persistence ensures the destination. So I just wanted to get your take on that, Junior. Not a real question, so to speak, at this stage, but more of what's your perspective on just developing as an individual, as a brand, as a business, and going through the process.
What I heard you say in like one sentence is that you have to learn how to let go of what no longer serves you. So you have to learn how to let go of what no longer serves you. And I think in business and just in life in general, it's like that for many things. A lot of us, there are relationships that no longer serve us. There are partnerships that no longer serve us. There are different things, activities, beliefs, even beliefs. So something that I did, some time ago, Bobby, was I sat down, I wrote down a couple of my beliefs, like what do I believe? So I have one of my books somewhere in the corner here, I wrote down everything I believe in. So in other words, I said to myself, I would have really loved to have known what my great grandfather believed in. So then I said to myself, well, my grandson, I want him to know what I believe in. And then so I wrote down in a book, this is what I believe in. And I just wrote it out, just as an exercise. But as I was going through it, there were a lot of beliefs. When you start to question, like, what is the origin of this belief? And why do you hold on to it so strongly? And does the origin of the belief have my best interests at heart? You start to see that there's actually a lot of beliefs that you probably shouldn't be believing, right? It just doesn't serve you. Having original thought, having, sort of, unchaining your mind, freeing yourself from mental slavery, as Bob Marley would say. Like that's huge. And interestingly enough, when you come into business, it's said that when an entrepreneur cannot grow or does not grow, it's because they lack one or both of two things. Number one is a skill, so you lack a skill, or number two, you lack a belief, or number three, you lack both. So if you're not growing right now, there's something that you don't know how to do. If you know how to do it, there's something that you don't believe. So there's a belief that you either don't have, or there's a misguided belief, like you were saying, that is actually holding you back. And if you could identify what are the skills that I need, but most importantly, what is the belief that I need, okay, or what is the belief that I don't necessarily need anymore, and you could eliminate that, that could make your current ceiling your floor, so to speak. I'll give you an example. Back in the day when I was going to college, I had a bunch of friends. Now, I've always been a very confident guy. Okay, I've always been a very confident guy. I've always been in positions of leadership and stuff like that. I was very confident, maybe a little too confident. I think I think my confidence has matured over the years. But back in the day, I was very confident and I was very vocal about it. Okay, let's put it that way. But I had a group of friends that they used to. It's interesting because if you have like especially male friends, they're not necessarily making fun of you. You know what I mean, Bobby? But they're like pulling your leg, so
Yeah.
to speak. And one day somebody said something to me. I don't remember exactly what it was because that's like 12, almost 12, 14 years ago. But they said something to me and I believed it. I believed it. And as a result of me believing that, I sort of changed my behavior because I believed what they said. And more than 10 years later, in fact, maybe like 2 years ago, I was doing the exact thing that we're talking about right now. I was going through this exact exercise. And I said to myself, there's a belief that I don't have or belief that I need to have in order to go to the next level. And when I really sat down and I really thought about it, I realized that it was actually a belief that I had like 10 years ago. I need to get that belief back. Okay? I needed to get that belief back. And so I picked it up. I picked up that belief that I needed to have, and I let go of an old belief because I realized that in that moment, the belief had served me, but for where I was, it no longer served me. And that can be very tough because that is literally trying to read the wrapper on the bottle when you're the bottle. And that's not easy. So that takes a lot of introspection. It takes you being able to tell yourself the truth and being okay with that truth, whatever it is, and you being willing to take action. Yeah, you being willing to take action.
Yeah. Man, Junior, this has been an incredible call. I really can tell that the people enjoyed it. The comments went crazy this morning. So thank you guys for spending some time with us. We do this for you. This is your Breakfast with the Brand. We are definitely a minute over, so I'll be very quick. But I just want to leave you guys with one thing that I did write down that I didn't get a chance to share. And it's about how I view weakness, because I don't think that there are any weak people. I just think that sometimes we can opt for weakness over strength. So here are 3 characteristics that you can, maybe use in your everyday life or discard if you don't find them useful at all. But when I do one of these 3 things, I'm normally being weak. If I can't do something that is possible, like that I should do, but I don't do it, like I can't bring myself to do it, then I would say I'm being weak. For example, if I can't stop eating candy, if I know that candy's bad for me and I can't stop doing it, then to me that's being weak. If I won't stop doing it, let's say I know that smoking is bad, but I won't stop smoking, like I'm being weak in my perspective. And then if I stop doing something that I know I should finish, I'm being weak. So I share that with you because pain is weakness leaving the body. And oftentimes when we feel pain, that's when those 3 things come up. When we can't, like when we say we can't do something, it's because we're feeling pain and doing that thing. We're like, I can't do it. I can't go another day. I can't because the pain is too much. When we won't do something, it's because we feel pain. Like I'm not going to do this because the possibility of the pain or the pain that I'm experiencing, I won't stop. And when we stop doing something, like we're in the middle of a run and we know we're supposed to run and it's 1 mile left, but we start walking, like we stop running, it's because of the pain. So I found that strength is usually pushing through the pain. And I'll stop there. We're at like 9:03, but I did want to give you guys, 3 signs that may be useful to you to say now's the best time to push and the worst time to quit.
100%. Guys, this has been Breakfast with the Brand. Thank you so much. We'll be back tomorrow, same place, same time. By the way, if you have not registered for the webinar as yet, then please go to www.shaanrice.com and just fill out the form on the page, and then you will be entered. Fill out anything, any form you fill out there will take you directly to the email list, and then you will get an email inviting you to the session. All right. Again, you could also reach out to myself, or you could reach out to Bobby on any social media platform, and we will respond to you promptly. Have a phenomenal day and speak soon. Let's grow.